German Chancellor Olaf Scholz says Germany has delivered on its pledge to provide Ukraine with 18 Leopard 2 battle tanks. The long-awaited German-manufactured vehicles were reportedly handed over to Ukrainian forces at the country's border. The delivery marks a major shift in Ukraine's battlefield capability and fulfills a long-held promise by Germany to Ukraine. So how big a deal is this delivery? Here's our correspondent Nick Connolly from near the front line in the Ukrainian city of Kramatorsk.
I think this is really important. I was just at the front lines a couple of hours ago and before this news came in, and the first question from everyone when they found out that we were from a German broadcaster was, where are the tanks? It was a joke, but it was meant with a lot of seriousness and concern, because people here tell you that this spring offensive that everyone's talking about, this kind of last chance, as it were, for Ukraine to really push Russia back before the pressure on Ukraine mounts to get back some kind of negotiations with the Kremlin. For that, they really need tanks. Right now, they're doing pretty well at defending what they have, but to move forward, they need tanks. So this is a massive, massive development.
That's Nick Connolly. Mark Montgomery can help us through the detail. He's a retired US Navy Rear Admiral and serves as Senior Director of the Centre on Cyber and Technology Innovation at the Foundation for Defence of Democracies. He joins us from Washington, D.C. Welcome to DW. What sort of difference do you think 18 Leopard 2s is going to make?
Well, first, thank you for having me. And as your reporter alluded to, it's going to make a significant difference. These tanks will be part, I think, of an overall grouping of 88 to 100 tanks that come from Germany, Poland, Sweden, Finland, Norway, Spain, Portugal, and Canada. A lot of deliveries of the Leopard 2, which is absolutely the right tank for Ukraine. It mixes firepower, accuracy, maneuverability, and mobility. Has a long range. It has a diesel engine, much easier to maintain than, say, a U.S. M1A1 Abrams. I think that this is going to have a significant effect on the battlefield, and I think it was the best possible contribution that Germany and many of the other Western European powers could make to the Ukrainian war effort.
OK, so that's quite a ringing endorsement. And one wonders, is there a sense in which the delivery of these heavy weapons also puts pressure on Ukraine from its Western allies? If these don't help you push the Russians back, then maybe you need to sit down and sue for peace.
Well, I think these are part of as we think about any upcoming Ukrainian offensive in the Donbass region, I think this needs to be seen as part of an overall Western contribution. I think we have to provide a lot of artillery rounds, a lot of guided missile launcher rocket systems. That's the Gimlers that goes on the HIMARS launchers. And I think we even have to be thinking about providing ATACMS, the longer range artillery systems. You need to provide that artillery along with this maneuver capability in the tanks. With both of those in numbers, artillery, including long-range ATACMS, and tanks spearheaded by the Leopard 2 contributions. With those together, this is the time for Ukraine to be able to significantly alter the battlefield and improve their position, either for final negotiation or to actually claw back all the territory they lost in eastern Ukraine.
OK, so the tanks, not the end of the story as far as supplying Ukraine goes. Russia took heavy losses in this winter fighting for Bakhmut. Do they have the resources to repel a new Ukrainian offensive?
Well, that's going to be interesting to see, because you're absolutely right. They took heavy losses. Now, their losses were a mixture. They weren't necessarily all frontline troops, but their losses were among the Wagner group, former prisoners, which obviously weren't something of value to the Russian military, but also of many of the conscripts that they brought on over the last 6 to 9 months. So they did take a lot of losses. There's got to be a morale problem for them. It's not just a question with Russia of resources. It's resources plus will. And I think they've had significant negative impacts on the morale and the willingness of their troops to fight. So I think that as much as the Ukrainian offensive is going to push the Russians, their own failure over the last 2 months, but more broadly over the last 14 months, I think negatively impacts their forces and makes it less likely that they'll be able to withstand Ukrainian pushes.
Good talking to you. That's very clear. Thank you so much for joining us. Mark Montgomery in Washington.